Happy Friday, everybody. I'm David T. Grotenheis. Welcome to another episode of 2 Minutes with T. To my left, I have Nolan Wiersma. He's our middle school math teacher at Pella Christian Grade School. We are on our 8th day of Teaching for Transformation training, and we are on the final part of a discussion that we've been having these past few weeks about the PLC model at PCGS. The final question of the PLC model is, how do we teach it? So I'm going to ask Nolan just to share a little bit about how he goes about designing a lesson in one of his math classrooms.
I believe that one of the biggest parts of planning a good lesson is starting with the end at the beginning. So I want to clearly identify what I want my kids to know when planning a lesson and build the assessment at that point before I even begin teaching it, just so I know exactly what my kids are going to be shooting for throughout the process of the unit or the lesson. And then once I've got that, then I try to find the most engaging or best way to make sure my kids can meet those standards or expectations for the lesson.
Yeah. So let's say you get to the end of the lesson and you have half of your students didn't get it. How do you respond as a teacher when the final assessment doesn't produce the results that you had intended?
Definitely the toughest part about being a teacher, I believe, is meeting the needs of every kid that comes into your classroom. And when you're designing lessons, I think you think that you're creating something that will work for every kid, and it just doesn't happen that way. So there's a multitude of ways, because I think pre-assessment is a big deal too, that if kids already know the content that you're going to teach, why should they sit through lessons on that stuff? So giving kids some challenges within the classroom. And then if they don't know it, one of the things that I'm consistently doing is assessing, not for a grade, but just to inform my instruction and what happens in my classroom. So I do a lot of entry tickets into the classroom just to gauge where kids are at and when they're ready for assessment. So I try and make sure kids are ready for that assessment. If not, there's things like we've got Eagle Time built into our schedule, so meeting with kids at different times in smaller groups can be helpful. And sometimes the content has to change a little bit or has to be explained in a new way, bringing out things to touch and to move while they're teaching. So that's an ideal situation, I think. That doesn't always happen, but as best we can, we do those things for kids in the high end and the low end.
Yeah, and that's how we accomplish our mission at Pella Christian Grade School, as we challenge students to develop their gifts for a life of service in God's kingdom. Thanks for joining me today, Nolan, and we'll see you on another episode of 2 Minutes with T next week as we welcome several visitors in for a grand day. Have a blessed weekend.